Am I wearing the same jumper as last week? Now, today we are talking Dutch and Flemish and some of the differences that you can find between the two languages. But first, so now that my hunt has officially begun in The Hague, thank you for everyone for their suggestions on where I can finally find fresh stroopwafels. Today we are talking the differences between Dutch and Flemish. I feel like this is an age-old battle. Some people are very quick to say that they are two different languages. I am sorry to say they are not. They are governed by the same language union. So the Nederlandse Taalunie is the governing body that looks after all of the literature, how the language is taught in schools. And they also govern the Dutch, which is an official language in Suriname since 2004. So they're governed by the same body and they should be taught in the same ways. But we all know that once a language is spoken, it takes on a completely different shape and form, and this depends on who's using it, where they live, what region they come from, what age they are, who they surround themselves with. So I feel like spoken language takes on such a different personality on its own. I know reading Flemish is the same as reading Dutch. Again, they're managed by the same body, but there are some massive differences between the two languages. The Flemish dialect is spoken predominantly in Vlaanderen. Belgium has 3 official languages. They are Dutch, French, and German. I would also say that Belgium is a pretty English-friendly country because it's the hub of the European Union, and I feel like it kind of has to be. But I do have a friend that lives there, and he says that if you ever receive an official letter from the government or so, it needs to be officially given in those 3 languages. After doing a little bit of research on the 2 different languages and watching a few shows and movies in Flemish, and obviously just the knowledge that I have of Dutch, I kind of feel like it's similar in how Australian English would be compared to American English or British English. We have very specific ways of expressing ourselves. We have very specific slang terms that are not recognized by America or Britain. And I feel like that is a very similar situation to what you've got between Dutch and then Flemish. You also have this massive influence of the French language in Belgium. So you don't have that here in the Netherlands. They have a lot of loan words from French. Things like voila and s'il vous plaît. I've been there once, but I heard it a lot, and that's not something that you hear here in the Netherlands. So for me, these were instant differences that I could pick up in the short time that I was there. You really hear that French influence coming through when they are adopting words from each other. The other most noticeable thing is the zachte G. So they have a G. Jij and je. These are ways to say you, and in the Netherlands you have jij, je, and u. This is also not a telltale sign if someone is from Belgium, because even south of the river here in the Netherlands, or south in the Netherlands, people also use the zachte G. So it's not the go-to, but it's definitely one of the major signs that someone has come from that southern region. Another thing is that they swap around their informal and formal u and jij, je, gij, je. Those words are all backwards compared to what I'm used to. I had asked my Patreons about this topic to see if they had had any experience or any takeaways from the biggest differences between Dutch and Flemish, and most of the examples were words that they swapped out. But one patron actually kind of described this scale of north of the Netherlands all the way down into Belgium, and that anything south of that river kind of took on traits that were more and more like Flemish Dutch. So you had words like friet also being used in the south of the Netherlands, which is more commonly known as a Belgian word. So you've got this kind of like sliding scale of word choice and accent that all kind of come into each other, that start all the way up from the north of the Netherlands and goes all the way down into Flanders. Now there are a ton of videos giving very, very specific examples of words that people say in Flemish and words that people would say in Dutch. There's lots of these swap arounds and different examples of how this happens in each dialect. It's impossible to do. I don't have first-hand experience being there, so I feel like it wouldn't be incredibly helpful for anyone. I have been jumping into some language forums and I came across this text that someone had said is very, very difficult for Dutch people to translate properly and accurately if they only speak the Netherlands Dutch. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Have a read. See if you can translate this. I had a lot of issues, but my knowledge of Dutch is nowhere near as a native level. So let me know in the comments below. Can you translate this? Do you know what all the words mean? I will leave a link in the description to the answers. Don't cheat. Have a go first and then go and check out and see if you actually got all of these words right. I feel like this text is the perfect example of how a language and a dialect is very, very different in how accurately you can express yourself. And I go back to Australian English and the other versions of English because I definitely have more experience in that. But I think it would be very, very difficult for someone to express themselves accurately and in a natural way if they were to try and speak Australian English. Like I said earlier in the video, we have very, very specific examples of slang that are only used in very, very specific contexts. And I just think that it is far too difficult. Yes, I understand someone who's from America and I also understand someone who's from Britain. I think using a text like this very much demonstrates the differences between Dutch and Flemish. It shows you that certain words and lexical choice and the way that we express ourselves can differ a lot between the two dialects. I would find it really strange if an American could fully express themselves using Australian only terms and words and sound like they were an Australian. I think there's something to say for the way that we express ourselves. And yes, we're understandable, but we're also not really the same version of English, and the same goes for Dutch and Flemish. If you haven't had a go below at trying to translate this text, then let me know instead what your most obvious difference is between Dutch and Flemish. I'm super, super interested to know what your examples are, and you guys have probably a lot more experience than I do. I know there's some funny and probably some very awkward swap arounds. When I was chatting about it in my Patreon community, they had an example of poepen and kokken and how very, very different those two meanings are between Dutch and Flemish. I want to give a big thank you to my patrons who helped kind of steer the way and start the research for this video. And I'm super, super happy that you guys are helping sort of grow this channel and turn it into what I want the channel to be. If you want to gain early access to videos or enter polls or help me put future videos together, then please jump over onto my Patreon community and join me there. I will drop the link for that in the description. If you like these videos, then please always remember to give a thumbs up, subscribe, do all of the things, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.